Let's jump right in. Go ahead and get comfortable. Actually, scratch that. You might want to go double check your deadbolts first. In this explainer, we're keeping our voices just a little bit hushed because we are opening up 3 absolutely terrifying real-life case files. And let me tell you, these stories, they're going to completely peel back that comforting, picture-perfect facade of suburbia and show us the chilling reality of exactly who might be living literally right next door to you.
Just imagine looking out your own window right now. You're at home, you feel totally secure, right? But what if the person staring back at you from the other side of the fence is harboring a seriously lethal secret? What if they literally told you, quote, "If I ever told anybody, he would come back and kill me"? Yeah, no way. That is exactly the kind of living nightmare we're untangling today.
We're all socially conditioned to expect the people next door to be, friendly, quiet, safe, just regular folks. But the first-hand accounts we are about to dig into, they reveal a completely different reality. We're talking highly secretive, intensely threatening, and invasive behaviors that just totally shatter that whole illusion of the safe, happy neighborhood. So let's jump straight into case 1, the Midnight Digger.
Okay, so 5 years ago, a neighbor named Charles went through an unimaginable tragedy. His 14-year-old son disappeared without a trace. The case goes cold, and eventually life just kind of seemingly moves on, right? Well, fast forward to just last week. Charles knocks on his neighbor's door to borrow a shovel. And not just any shovel, he specifically asks for their best shovel. Weird, but okay. Then, at 1:30 in the morning, Charles is out in his backyard violently digging a massive hole in the pitch black. And the kicker? The very next day, that same hole is completely patched up like absolutely nothing happened.
Now, obviously, the neighbor narrating this just couldn't resist. I mean, who could? He actually snuck over into Charles's yard in the dead of night. Just put yourself there for a second, standing there, looking down into this freshly dug dirt just lit by the moon. Suddenly, he spots a small piece of a black garbage bag sticking out from the bottom of the hole. Before he can process it, he hears Charles coming back and has to absolutely book it out of there. And it leaves us hanging with this horrifying question: what on earth was in that garbage bag? The neighbor suspected the absolute worst scenario, that Charles was moving his missing son's remains. The aftermath of this is incredibly chilling. The neighbor, well, he never gets his shovel back, for one. Then he notices Charles's SUV has been moved out of the driveway and parked out on the street. And then the narrator catches Charles staring, just staring intently right at his house from across the yard in broad daylight. And then Charles quickly snaps the blinds shut. The neighbor knows for sure he's being watched. So when we look at these undeniable red flags here, the sudden need for a shovel, the bizarre hostility when he was offered help, checking around for witnesses and, digging a giant hole at 1:30 in the morning, the lesson is crystal clear. When someone's behavior radically defies logic like this, you've got to trust your gut. Moving right along, let's look at case 2, the armed playdate. Picture this. A 15-year-old gets this totally unexpected invite from 2 really reclusive neighbor kids, Eric and Todd. They want him and his brother to come down to the river to shoot some BB guns. Innocent enough, right? But as soon as they get out into the woods, Eric and Todd are completely decked out in serious camouflage gear, and they're lugging this heavy duffel bag. They finally get down to the river, Todd unzips the bag, and just drops an absolute bomb. He tells them these are real guns, and Eric, he immediately loads one up and just starts firing live rounds right into the trees. Okay, so the narrator smartly takes the gun away from his brother, puts it back, and they just walk away. Good move. But that night, the consequences show up. The narrator wakes up in the middle of the night because of this freezing cold breeze. His bedroom window is wide open. All of a sudden, he feels a cold, hard metal object pressed directly against the back of his head. And then, a whisper from Todd in the pitch dark, telling him to stay perfectly silent. These red flags escalated so incredibly fast. We go from a strange, kind of aggressive demeanor, wearing full camo, violently snapping branches in the woods, to outright lethal harassment. I mean, Todd threatened to literally kill the narrator's entire family if they told his dad about the guns. And if that wasn't enough, days later, a rock hits the narrator's window at 1 a.m. He looks outside, and there's Todd, aiming a pistol straight up at him and laughing hysterically. Pure nightmare fuel. I really want to force you into the narrator's shoes for just a second here. Honestly, with a loaded gun pressed to your head, would you tell your parents what happened? Or would you stay completely silent just to survive? Well,
the narrator chose to stay totally silent. He basically relied on the sheer luck that his family was already planning on moving away a week later. It is a horrifying, absolutely paralyzing situation to be trapped in.
All right, let's open up our final file, Case 3, the bedroom intruder. We've got a fresh college grad who just moved into a cheap, slightly rundown area. Unfortunately, they end up living right next door to a highly hostile older woman in her 60s and a younger woman who is clearly unstable, like she spends her entire day just rocking back and forth on the porch. Well, one evening, after dealing with a solid hour of nonstop, ear-piercing screaming from the younger woman, the narrator is totally exhausted. They walk over, politely knock on the door, and just ask for some quiet. The older woman answers, and she is noticeably annoyed. But then, suddenly, the younger woman storms into the room, screaming, "How dare you!" at the top of her lungs, right before the older woman just slams the door straight in the narrator's face.
Wow, okay. So the narrator shakes it off, heads back home, and goes to sleep. Now, around 3 o'clock a.m., they wake up. And honestly, they just feel this huge wave of relief that the night has passed quickly and, most importantly, quietly. But wait. Just 20 minutes later, at 3:20 a.m., that entire false sense of security totally shatters because they hear distinct noise. And it's coming from downstairs, inside their own locked house.
So they cautiously go check the hallway. They hear absolutely nothing, and they decide, okay, I'm just going back to sleep. But then they wake up again. The room is pitch black, and they know with that primal gut instinct that someone is in there with them. Just picture fumbling silently in the pitch dark for your phone, absolutely terrified of what you are going to see the second you light up that screen.
The noise is right there now. It's close. They frantically scan the dark corners of the room. Finally, their thumb finds the button. They flip on the phone light, and that blinding beam of light hits this dark, shadowy shape. It's the face of the deranged younger neighbor, and she is staring right at them, literally inches away, crouching at the edge of the bed. Obviously, they scream, the intruder screams, and the narrator somehow barely escapes downstairs, locks themselves in, and calls the cops. I mean, look at this escalation. The unprovoked screaming fits, the older woman's hostility, literally sneaking into a locked house in the middle of the night. And it all leads up to the most chilling red flag of all. When the cops finally arrive to take the intruder away, that older woman just stands there in the yard. She doesn't apologize, she doesn't panic. She just gives the narrator this dead-eyed look of pure evil hatred. Which brings us to our final point, trusting your survival instincts. Whether we're talking about a potentially murderous father, a couple of heavily armed and unstable teenagers, or a completely unhinged home intruder, the common thread in all these case files is crystal clear. Your survival depends on trusting your gut the absolute second that normal facade starts to crack. We all share fences, sidewalks, and property lines with strangers. You might wave to them when you grab your mail, you might smile at them over the bushes, but underneath that polite, everyday surface, how well do you really know the people living next door? Stay safe out there, always trust your instincts, and hey, thanks for joining me in this explainer.